vision and decoder kind of architecture, how to retrieve. That is, and retrieval or document retrieval, along with re-ranking, forms like the central component of RAG. Many previous RAG studies treat retrieval as black box APIs, owing to most closed source engines like Bing and Google. Many others have operated on open source versions, often even back-propagating over the retrievers while training the generator, especially with traditional approaches like BM25 and modern generative re-rankers. Sparse approaches like TF-IDF and BM25 are widely utilized scoring functions that assess the relevance of documents to a given query by calculating term frequencies and inverse document frequencies. So the main idea involves basically prioritizing documents that contain a high frequency of query terms and also feature a low frequency of these terms across other documents. If you ask a query something like, give me 10 Indian restaurants, and then you want all the documents having words related to India and restaurants and cafes, all those documents to come up. But since your query also contains the word name some Indian restaurants, some would basically be in all the documents. So you want to downweight documents which contain the word some, because some is like a common word in which will generally be available across many documents. BM25 and TF-IDF effectively rank documents by their specificity to their query, like basically distinguishing them based on the uniqueness. The advantage of BM25 or a sparse approach is that they don't require sophisticated hardware. They just work on term frequencies and inverse document frequencies. But the disadvantages is that they lack similarity beyond surface form. For a question on the right, if we see like show me nearby Indian places to eat, the model has basically ranked Gokul Indian Eatery as highly relevant, which is correct, but it's not ranked Delhi restaurant. It's ranked that as low relevance, which is incorrect because it has not found any surface level match. Dense retrieval techniques, on the other hand, provide semantic matching by leveraging the computational power of GPUs. So these methods use BERT-like transformer models to encode query and document vectors, with the scoring function often being like the dot product or the cosine similarity of these vectors. So this allows efficient computation, and particularly there are lots of libraries like Phase, which help you implement maximum minimum product search and generally support mainly k-nearest neighbor computation. So Colbert, for instance, Colbert architecture introduced a late interaction token level operator called maxim, so which computes the maximum similarity of each query token across all the document tokens, capturing the best match for each query within the document. The problem is essentially that you have a single query and a long list of documents, and you want to find the most similar document. These approaches are very useful, especially when there is no surface level match between the query and the document. But the disadvantage is that, okay, you require like sophisticated hardware, you require GPUs, and you require a lot of pre-training and a lot of fine-tuning as well. But if you notice a lot of sparse retrieval approaches also work well today on a lot of data sets. It's always best to basically try out multiple retrieval approaches and see what works better. But generally in a corporate setting or in a setting where there's a lack of resources, or even, I mean, in any, I would say like any production system, an approach was a combination of the sparse and the dense is used. Neural re-ranking basically involves first like taking top K candidates from BM25. So you take a large number of candidates from a sparse retriever, which would be quick, like taking the 100 documents, 1,000 documents, and then re-ranking them through a neural re-ranker. The way to re-rank is also done by two popular approaches. One is a point-wise approach and one is a list-wise approach. In point-wise, you essentially feed like a query and a document and then make a language model predict the relevance score, how relevant the document is to the query. In the list-wise approach, for each query, you feed all the documents and then make the LLM generate a re-ranked list of the documents itself. That could be generating either the re-ranked list of directly the document text, or it could be just generating a re-ranked document IDs. So anything like if you have any questions till now here, because actual RAG would start from here. This is one taxonomy that I created for different RAG approaches. So I've tried to add as much as possible, but I'll try to cover the basic architectures, and the other architectures then will be, so specifically, I've divided RAG approaches into white box and black box approaches. So distinct white box approaches essentially access the model's weights, or at least the last layer, to get the generation's logit probabilities. If you use an autoregressive decoder like GPT-2 or any other transformer-based architecture, the way text is generated is via token wise, and those tokens could be words or they could be subwords. And while generating each token, there's a probability assigned to it, which is an output of the softmax score of the last layer, which is generally called as the logit probability. So in some of the white box approaches, those probabilities are used to determine the confidence of the generation. So many of the RAG approaches either use the white box or use the black box approach. Many of the approaches basically work on models like GPT-4, GPT-3.5, which are actually very close source and are treated as API calls, and we don't get any probability information. But I think recently GPT-3 has logit probabilities, but I don't think GPT-4 has yet. So in white box approaches, there have been studies of including the retriever during the pre-training stage or during the fine-tuning stage or during inference to improve tasks like open domain QA or fact verification. And among black box approaches, various prompting-based approaches have been generally explored, which include approaches which perform retrieval directly or under certain conditions. So these conditions could be like the predicted lack of the knowledge of the base LLM. There is also an interesting line of work which uses retrieval augmented generation post-inference, that is to revise the generations of a base LLM. So a lot of the approaches which use RAG post-inference are also inspired from a lot of approaches which tested the veracity of text. That is, we have certain text and we want to find out whether that text is generated by a human or it's generated by a model, and whether it's truthful, whether it's attributable to some external evidence. So I'll try to cover a subset of these.